with one-third of the world's GDP. They want to create an alternative to the global order unfairly dominated by the West since World War II. They are currently meeting in Russia for the first time with 10 members. So, what is BRICS? The BRIC acronym was coined by a Goldman Sachs economist in 2001 to describe Brazil, Russia, India, and China as the economies predicted to dominate the world by 2050. The bloc's first summit was held in 2009 to provide greater representation of non-Western countries in international financial institutions and support India and Brazil in their call for a greater role at the UN. 2 years later, South Africa joined the club, and it became BRICS. In 2023, for the first time in more than 10 years, BRICS admitted new members: Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Argentina was also accepted, but the country's far-right leader Javier Milei refused to join. The bloc is now sometimes called BRICS Plus. More than 30 states have since expressed interest in joining the coalition, including Cameroon, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Venezuela. This year, Russia invited 15 non-members, including Turkey, to take part in the summit. The club now accounts for more than 45% of the world's population and 32% of the global GDP, compared to the G7, which accounts for 30%. Among their goals, create a more inclusive multilateral order for the global south, use more local currencies rather than the US dollar for global trade, develop a BRICS bank to replace the IMF and the World Bank, institutions they see as continuing Western neoliberal and colonial ambitions by imposing strict development conditions on loans. But some alliance members are locked in bitter disputes. India and China are still fighting around the Himalayan border. Egypt and Ethiopia are arguing over a dam in the Nile, and Iran and Saudi Arabia are competing over regional leadership. The group is now a disparate mix, with some members being close to the US and others opposed to the West. The coherence and effectiveness of the bloc will be tested in October this year when Russia hosts BRICS leaders.
BRICS Pay, touted as an alternative to the US dollar, has the potential to revolutionize global finance by allowing BRICS nations to make cross-border payments more efficiently using their own currencies. But what exactly is BRICS Pay, and why is it so significant? Well, BRICS Pay is a proposed decentralized payment system developed by BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, recently expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE. It aims to enable cross-border transactions in local currencies without depending on the US dollar or traditional Western-led payment system like the SWIFT. Geopolitical tensions, particularly Western sanctions on countries like Russia, have accelerated the push for a new payment system. After the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Russia was cut off from international capital markets and had its dollar and euro reserves frozen. This financial isolation led Russia to call for an alternative to the current global financial system, dominated by institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, which they argue favor Western interests. The BRICS Pay system leverages the payment infrastructure already in place within BRICS nations. For example, Russia's MEAD network and India's UPI. BRICS Pay will use blockchain technology to validate transactions, ensuring security and transparency. It is designed to be faster, cheaper, and free from external interference. One of the key features of BRICS Pay is its ability to facilitate transactions in local currencies, including the Russian ruble and Indian rupee. This means that businesses and individuals in BRICS nations can make cross-border payments without needing to convert their currencies into US dollars. The new system brings numerous benefits. It eliminates the risks associated with the traditional banking system, such as credit risks and delays caused by reliance on Western-dominated platforms like the SWIFT. By using decentralized ledger technology, it also enhances the security and efficiency of transactions. BRICS now represents 45% of the global population and 37% of the world economy. With the expansion of BRICS and the development of BRICS Pay, these nations are pushing for a multipolar world order, challenging the dominance of the dollar in global trade. Often seen as a geopolitical rival to the G7 bloc of advanced economies, BRICS aims to create a financial system that works for emerging markets, offering alternatives to Western-led institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. As the world increasingly moves towards digitization, systems like BRICS Pay could become more critical in shaping the future of global payments and boost the efforts of de-dollarization. By fostering financial cooperation between member states and reducing dependency on the US dollar, BRICS Pay could pave the way for a more decentralized and equitable financial system. For more news and updates, keep watching Live Mint.
Countries should work together to create what he called a just world order.
BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, BRICS. So the name is an acronym. In 2006, it started with 4 members. South Africa joined in 2010. And this year, 5 new members have joined. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. They've all joined BRICS this year. So now there's a total of 10 members and there is potential for more.
Mr. Xi told Putin the world is undergoing profound changes unseen in a century and the international situation is chaotic and intertwined.
The world is undergoing profound changes unseen in a century and the international situation is becoming chaotic and intertwined. But I firmly believe that the profound friendship between China and Russia from generation to generation will not change.
Welcoming his professed dear friend Xi Jinping to the 16th annual BRICS summit, Vladimir Putin said Moscow and Beijing would work towards creating global security.
Then the BRICS are certainly onto something, because not only are many BRICS member states talking about a different world economic order, but once they start talking about a different political and security order, we're onto something in many, many ways.
20 world leaders in total are descending on the Russian city of Kazan for the summit. It's seen by the Kremlin as sending the message that attempts by the West to isolate President Vladimir Putin over his invasion of Ukraine have failed. Moscow is touting this as the largest foreign policy event the country has ever hosted. The Russian president hopes to use the summit to convince members to adopt an alternative to the dollar for global payments.
In the face of Western sanctions, Russia has been trying to persuade its allies to adopt an alternative to the dollar for international payments. At a BRICS summit this week, Moscow is expected to try and convince a growing club of developing economy allies that it is immune from Western attempts to isolate it and call for other countries to join its attempt to overhaul the global financial system.
Russian authorities are keen to promote the idea of a unified BRICS financial system to rival the dominant US dollar.
BRICS is perceived as an alternative to the dollar system. It became the platform that offers some alternative ways of carrying out economic and financial transactions. Russia proposes to use some kind of new currency, which could allow national currencies to be converted into a new unit of payment. It will reportedly be electronic digital money.
Xi Jinping is going to walk alongside his buddy Vladimir Putin at this BRICS summit. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Gordon, it seems to me that Joe Biden's done an excellent job of bringing our enemies together into this BRICS group. It worries me very much that you have India part of it, the UAE part of it. I guess my question to you is, A, are you concerned about the growing kind of inclusivity of the BRICS group? And also, what moves have they made? Is it a serious threat that they're trying to get these countries and other to use currencies other than the dollar? Where do you think that stands at this point?
Yeah, the BRICS wants a common currency. China has been pushing that. They're going to maybe make it gold back. But as everybody says, there's only one country that can dethrone the dollar, and that's us with the wild spending that the Biden administration has been authorizing. So clearly there's something needs to be done there.
The group accounts for 45% of the world's population and 35% of global economic output.
So Moscow's position is simple. It sees the BRICS as a way to oppose the West, a way to challenge the Western order. Then you have China. It wants to dethrone the West, position itself as a global leader. And what better way than this? A group that caters to the global south. So this is where Russia and China find common ground, an alliance against the West. That's what they want BRICS to be. But not everyone shares this vision, like India. India does not want to take an anti-Western stand.
World currency will be in effect for the whole 5 months. And I won't go into why I think that, but of course, Antichrist is here himself de facto or de jure the last half of that 5 months, 2.5 months. Kenneth in Oklahoma, if I was baptized...
Reshaping the U.S.-led global order does have appeal for other countries outside of Russia. Finally, I would note that this is a chance for Putin to have meetings with key partners that are sometimes hard to pull off because of his travel limitations, given the arrest warrant from the ICC against him.
The BRICS are very disparate. I don't think that they're a real challenge to the U.S. And by the way, India in the BRICS is actually preventing the BRICS from becoming a non-Western institution. India is not part of the West, but India doesn't want to be anti-Western. So as long as India is in the BRICS, we're going to be okay. If they turf India out, then the BRICS could actually be an important organization.
As of today, 30 countries expressed their desire to cooperate with BRICS in varying degrees, to join this organization's activity in this or that way. Here, together with other members of the organization, we have to think carefully how to treat the enlargement of BRICS. Certainly, we will not push anyone away. It is absolutely clear that our doors are open.
And with the Middle East settlement on the summit's agenda, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was also invited to Kazan. That invitation came directly from President Putin, who has reaffirmed Russia's support for a two-state solution to the conflict.
What we hear from the member countries, of course, that it is not an anti-Western bloc, but rather an alternative to the existing world order, an attempt to offer some other kind of organization to the world.
Добиться максимальной реализации экономического, инвестиционного, технологического и человеческого потенциалов наших стран. Укрепить конструктивное влияние БРИКС на мировые процессы. Сделать мир, в котором мы живем, более безопасным.
It is also not yet clear how many countries explicitly support an alternative to a dollar-based financial system.
I think that first of all, BRICS had to learn how to sit together when twice as large countries now present in BRICS body. And previously of any arrangement, the major points should be settled down. First of all, it's alternative payment system.
Perhaps conscious that building support for an alternative to the dollar might be challenging, Moscow has an interim proposal, a so-called bridging payment system for digital transactions set in individual national currencies that would be immune from Western control. The idea hinges on linking commercial banks through the central banks of BRICS member nations and involves transferring digital tokens backed by national currencies using blockchain technology. This would guarantee the secure exchange of those currencies, circumventing the need for dollar backing altogether. Some newcomers to the club, like Egypt, are already exploring similar bilateral payment partnerships.
I mean, some of the BRICS countries, they started such models of payment bilaterally. So we find China, Russia, India, Russia, and so on. Even China, United Arab Emirates, and so on. In Egypt, we are starting this with China as well. So, I mean, this is the trend now. This is the trend. And this is an important step to be taken by the BRICS.
I suspect, you talk about the European Union, as our colleague in Tehran was just doing there. I mean, essentially, you've got lots of different political persuasions running European countries, and most countries, apart from, of course, mine, which left, seem to be quite happy to be within the EU. Large organisations have got to be constructed, really, to be big enough for all of their members and to take account of the different types of government that they may have. But there's a commonality of interest. We've talked about some of this when it comes to the United Nations, the rule of international law, all of these things that actually came out of the end of the Second World War that our grandparents fought so hard to establish, are now being sort of ripped up in front of us. And so I think that there are many countries around the world looking for a new kind of stability in terms of peace and security.